Hello everybody, welcome to Awesome Rusty Bucket. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and drop a like on this video. I'm trying to hit 100k subscribers on this channel by the end of the year, so your subscription will be much appreciated. Also drop a like on this video, it only takes 1 second and makes a massive difference. So, by the way, if there's construction sound in the background and you hear that, is what it is. I have to record this early in the morning and, well, I guess it's the afternoon for me, but there's construction going on because I'm like the only house in the neighborhood. That's just something I'm going to have to work around. But I watched a game the other day in person, which was the Boston Celtics versus the Charlotte Hornets. This ended up being a really exciting and good game as it went into overtime, and I wanted to talk about that. That's why there was not a post-game recap last night. I couldn't, I didn't want to drive 3 hours from the arena back home and then record a video because I was fucking exhausted. But this game was fantastic, as I mentioned. I think I already said it went into overtime. I didn't have a strong side that I was really rooting for. I was really just hoping for a good game, and I absolutely got that. The first half of this game was interesting because Kelly Oubre was going off. He had 5 3-pointers in the first half out of like 7 attempts, and I was like, is Kelly Oubre about to have a double-digit 3-point game right now? Like, Kelly Oubre is not even that great of a shooter. He's like average to... What the fuck? What the hell are you doing? That was fucking creepy, Rudy. Rudy is visiting, and I went to the game with him, and he just poked his phone in the door and was... That was not a consensual recording. Anyways, as I mentioned, Kelly Oubre was going off in the first half, didn't do jack shit in the second half, and actually took a couple of bad shots as a result of like trying to continue that streak going. Miles Bridges continued his hot start. He had 25 points, and he continues with that 25 to average 25 points per game, as well as 8.5 rebounds. Gordon Hayward actually probably didn't play that great. He's fine. And then LaMelo had himself a game where he hit 7 3-pointers. He did take a 3-pointer late that was rather concerning. That was like not a good shot attempt over, I think it was Robert Williams. And then they go down the floor when the game is tied with 13 seconds left. And James Borrego called a timeout like right before he chucked like a logo shot with like 13 seconds. And everybody in the arena thought that he actually took that because we didn't hear the whistle. We like the whistle and the shot seemingly happened at the same time. So he didn't take the shot like thinking that was the actual shot he should take. It just happened. In hindsight, they shouldn't have called a timeout though, because the Celtics got a steal off of the inbound, even though it didn't result in anything in a game winner, that is. But it's hard to, and I said this back when I covered the Suns Nets game 3 that I went to and the Bucks Nets game 4 that I went to. It's hard to do recaps on more specific details of the game when you're in person because there's so much of the allure of just like, oh yeah, we are at an NBA game right now. Like, I'm so caught up in that to really notice X's and O's and things like that. So just keep that in mind with this commentary. Another player that's worth mentioning is Jalen McDaniels, who has been cracking the rotation earlier in the season. And I saw him a little bit last year too, and I was like, I don't know if this guy is like a big rotation piece. Now, granted, Nick Richards got a lot of time in this game, and PJ Washington is injured, Terry Rozier is injured, so they're not gonna, those guys are probably going to barely crack the rotation when everybody is healthy. And it is worth mentioning that not everybody has been healthy, as the Hornets have started off the season well. But I don't know how much he's going to crack the rotation really, but in this game he was good. I believe he had a pretty nice dunk, if I'm remembering correctly. He hit his 3-pointers. I think he had a really nice layup in transition. Good stuff from him. LaMelo, as I mentioned earlier, hitting 3-pointers, tons of assists. He had 2 like crazy assists. He had a full court pass to Gordon Hayward, and he did a driving in the lane, threw it behind his head, and Miles Bridges caught the ball and dunked it, and that was a great play to see in person. Speaking of great plays to see in person, I saw Jaylen Brown dunk on Miles Bridges, and we also got a great game from him as well as Jason Tatum. Both of these guys combined for 71 points. Tatum had 41 himself, and for basically the entire overtime, because he finished regulation with 39 points. And even though the Celtics took care of business in overtime, Tatum didn't score. On the last possession of the game, he drove to the rim and got free throws. Like the whole overtime, I was screaming for him to get 40 because I'd seen Giannis drop 40 against the Hornets, and I was like, it'd be cool to see someone else drop 40, especially Jason Tatum, who's another one of my favorite players up there with Giannis. And he did that. He also had 8 assists. His playmaking was really good in this game. Robert Williams had a weird game because he had good moments, but there was also a lot of poor decisions defensively and some stuff where he got lost off ball. Jabari Parker had 11 points in the first quarter, 3 3-pointers, and a really nice dunk, and then he had another nice dunk in the second quarter, but then he didn't do really anything after that. Dennis Schroeder was hitting his 3-pointers. His field goal percentage was whatever, but he hit those, so that was cool. He missed a wide open mid-range shot that like made the arena. Like what was funny is Celtics are such a popular team, and North Carolina also is like heavily populated by people who are not from North Carolina. I don't know what the numbers on that are. I just know that especially where I live, like almost everybody is from up north, even though we're in the South. And this arena was like half Celtics fans, half Hornets. And, you know, there was moments in the game where the arena started chanting, "Let's go Hornets," and then the Celtics went on a run. And then the Celtics fans started chanting, "Let's go Celtics," and it was just as fucking loud as the Hornets fans. So it was very interesting. There was basically, I'd say it was more like 60-40 split Hornets to Celtics fan ratio, but you know, a lot more than you'd expect for what should be a home game for the Hornets. And I do feel kind of bad for the Hornets on that front. But yeah, I don't know what else I don't know what put me on that tangent. Josh Richardson isn't good. I've been of that opinion for a while, and it was kind of annoying seeing him out there because he just didn't really do much. And as the season has started, it doesn't look like he's going to remain in the rotation because right now he's averaging 6 points per game. But yeah, I don't have too much to say about this game overall. It was just a really fun experience. A very close game, which of course you love to see. It felt like the Hornets had control of this game for a majority of it, but the Celtics were like always right there with them. It just felt like the Hornets were the team that was controlling the pace and, you know, making the plays that were shifting the momentum of the game. But then the Celtics would come and swing right back. But I do want to say, even though the Celtics obviously won this game, the Hornets pushed the Celtics team, which I think most people would agree is probably a better team, especially talent-wise. They pushed this team into overtime, and they are 3-1 overall. And now they have not, other than the Nets, they beat the Nets. I don't think their other games were against particularly great teams. If I have proper recollection, there's a chance that I'm misconstruing some of this shit. But I believe, yeah, they played the Cavaliers and they played the Pacers. The Pacers game was kind of wild, but yeah. The Pacers are not a bad team, but they're not a great one either. So the Pacers and the Cavs for 2 of those wins, but they beat the Nets and they pushed the Celtics into overtime. The Charlotte Hornets are like good, and again, they have not been fully healthy because Terry Rozier is a 20-point per game scorer that hasn't played yet this year. I believe he hasn't played yet this year. I know he hasn't played the last 3 or so games. According to the NBA app, he has 6 points per game and 2 rebounds and 2 assists. So I'm going to assume he played the first game of the year and got injured early when he had 6 points. So that's probably what happened. I didn't watch the first game, but for the Hornets. But yeah, the Hornets team. This team has a lot of wing depth. Miles Bridges is breaking out. I truly believe he's going to average 20 points per game for the year. Gordon Hayward is like really underrated. He's not that much worse than he was in Utah, and people just kind of forgot about him. Granted, he was overrated in Utah, so that's something. But LaMelo is taking a step this year. At this point, he averages 23, 5.5, and 7 assists per game through 4 games of the year. His 3-ball has looked great this year, even though he's got a kind of funky-looking jump shot. Mason Plumlee is a fine starting center. P.J. Washington is a really good role player who has missed a game or 2. Kelly Oubre has a weird fit on this team, and I don't know how much minutes he's going to get when everybody is healthy, but, you know, he's not bad for sure. But like all the wing depth that this team has, and LaMelo being as good as he is, and I think there is enough here, even with Terry Rozier coming back as another scorer. Like, you've got 4 guys on this team capable of averaging 20 points per game, being LaMelo, Terry, Gordon, and Bridges, and some solid supporting pieces around that, and I'd say a pretty decent coach in James Borrego. So I would watch out for the Hornets as a potential team to actually be in the playoffs this year and actually be one of the surprise teams. The thing that sucks is that the Eastern Conference is like really fucking deep, so there's a serious chance that they don't get in just because the other teams are more talented, not because the Hornets themselves are not talented. But I definitely think the Hornets have what it takes to be like an 8th, 7th, even 6th seed maybe if their cards are played right. But yeah, that's worth noting with the Hornets to look out for them. But yeah, that is it. Goodbye.